When we went to Jubilee House and met with the president, that was a very strategic conversation that Vic and Chance had with him. It wasn't just for a photo opportunity. Vic opened up the dialogue about the idea of this festival and how they were hoping to do something that would bring together the global diaspora as well as local Ghanaians and their friends in America coming and experiencing the culture, the music, and festivals here. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to create something that would be meaningful. Mm.
I go by the name of Adrian Daniels, and welcome to the Sound of Accra podcast. If this is your first time listening, this is the show where we speak with top Ghanaian founders, entrepreneurs, and creatives worldwide with the aim of leaving you behind with meaningful takeaways that you can apply in life, business, and career. For today's show notes, you can head over to thesoundofaccra.com/IvyProsper. That's thesoundofaccra.com/IvyProsper for all of the wisdom, tips, nuggets, and gems that you're going to get from this episode. Ivy spelled IvyProsper. That's Ivy Prosper. Okay, we'll have all of the links in the podcast description and in the YouTube description below. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, a 5-star review is very much appreciated. So I'm joined here with Ivy Prosper, the wonderful, multi-talented Ivy Prosper. She's a content creator, TEDx speaker. She's also a journalist. And she does so much more. For what I know her mostly for is telling fantastic stories about the African diaspora. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show, Ivy. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks.
Yeah. So we've been on. I mean, I know you from. I mean, I've watched your YouTube channel. I've been following it for quite some time. I think you put out some amazing content, and I've seen you in some of the WhatsApp communities that we've been in for quite some time, but. I've seen you in multiple places, and I think we've had quite a few mutual friends, but I think it just made sense to kind of get this interview done when the opportunity arose. So I'd like to thank Joannes, if you're watching, for this introduction. It was really kind of you to do it, and it's great to get Ivy on the show. So Ivy, for those that don't know a lot about you, could you mind just showing a quick elevator pitch about yourself and what you see yourself as and what you do?
Oh, I'm a creator. I see myself as a creator, a storyteller, a woman who's passionate about changing the narrative of Africa. Mm. And I do that through content creation. Mm-hmm. I create content on YouTube, as well as I manage the social media handles for Ghana's Year of Return and Beyond the Return campaigns. Mm-hmm. And then I'm a speaker, and I wrote a book on moving to Ghana.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Actually, you did. Yeah. What was the book called again?
Your Essential Guide on Moving to Ghana.
Your Essential Guide.
It's available on Amazon.
Ghana. Don't worry, we'll make sure that's in the show notes for those of you who want to go grab that book. Your Essential Guide for Moving to Ghana. I think let's start at the Year of Return, because that was a good place to start. Mm-hmm. But before we get to the Year of Return, I think we've just gone past. So today we're in January 2023, and we've just gone past another wave of December festivities, Beyond the Return, that's it. What's your view on the December that's just gone past? Like, how do you see it compared to the Year of Return that took place in 2019? Mm-hmm. Because I think after the Year of Return, we noticed COVID came in, the pandemic came in. So I think Christmas in Ghana, it was still rocking, but it wasn't quite the same in terms of like freedom and what people could do because of restrictions.
Were you here?
I was here.
Mm-hmm.
I was here. Yeah, I was here. Actually, the 2020 Christmas, I wasn't here. But 2021 Christmas, mm-hmm. I was here. And 2022 Christmas, I was here. Mm-hmm. So I was here for both Decembers. But the 2020, I wasn't here. But the stories I heard and people I interviewed, I know things weren't exactly the same as it was in the Year of Return 2019. So I just want to hear from your perspective, mm-hmm. December 2023. I know you were out and about during that season. How was it for you during that time?
Well, December 2020, yes, the numbers dropped significantly from 2019. 2019 was a phenomenal year for tourism in Ghana. Yeah. They recorded over 1.1 million people coming to the country that year.
It's crazy.
And so in 2020, with the pandemic, and there were a lot of restrictions around the world. So a lot of people, even within their own countries, maybe they weren't able to travel as freely and didn't feel comfortable or confident, even though people were watching Ghana from afar and seeing that the restrictions in Ghana weren't as tight as they were in other places, although there were a lot of COVID protocols in place. So 2020, yes, there were people still coming. There was a lot of things still happening, but it wasn't to the same level. The number of events wasn't the same as it was in 2019, obviously. But then when 2021 came, it went back to a lot of people coming back into the country. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. I think it was more than 600,000 for the whole year, which is a drop from 2019.
1 point something million, wasn't it?
But you saw it coming back up. There was like a resurgence of people coming. And because Ghana wasn't as heavily restrictive as other places, because COVID wasn't as dire here as it was in other places, people felt confident to come to Ghana. So I met a lot of people who said they're working remotely from home. So they figured, why not be in Ghana? So people came and they were in Ghana for like 6 months, a year. Some people even 2 whole years were in Ghana until their company said, you have to come back in the office. And then they went back. But as far as December, the December NGH campaign was launched in 2019 as a climax for Year of Return. And then, so every year subsequently, there's the December NGH promoting things happening in December. This past December 2022, the preliminary numbers, so I don't know the final numbers, but the preliminary numbers show that about 98,000 people came to Ghana in December. So that's the December statistic, not the whole year. And so there were over 100 events that the Beyond the Return Ghana Tourism Authority endorsed. It was about 122 exactly. A few of them got canceled for logistical reasons, but the majority of the events happened. And so December was a success. 2022 was a huge success. A lot of people came, a lot of people had a great time. And so we anticipate it's just going to keep getting more and more.
Yeah, I think it was fantastic. I mean, from different perspectives. I mean, you had, of course, Afrochella, which is going to be called Afrofuture.
Afrofuture, yeah.
Which you document on your YouTube channel.
I knew it was going to be changing because at Afrochella this year, everywhere you saw signs that said Afrochella is Afrofuture. Afrochella is Afrofuture. And you saw Afrofuture all over the place. You know, whereas a lot of people thought, oh, the theme this year is Afrofuture. They're thinking Afrofuturism because some of the installations that were there. And I was like, with the whole issue with the legalities happening with Coachella, the lawsuit and stuff, I just thought it just seems like they're going to change the name to Afrofuture. And even I did a reel on the Beyond the Return page. And in the reel, I actually wrote Afrochella is Afrofuture. And then like on my YouTube channel, like you said, I mentioned what I thought. Because Abdul at the end made the announcement, this is the last Afrochella. And people were kind of like just leaving because people were tired, people were ready to go home. And people didn't clue into it, a lot of people, I think. BBC did because they did a whole story on it.
Do you think that was a strategic stunt to drop that right at the end, so when people were maybe more or less ready to go home, so they wouldn't really hear that?
No, I don't think it was strategic. I think it was just, it's the end of the event. The last artist has performed. Let's say our thank you to everybody who has supported us over the years because we're starting a new chapter. I think that's all it was.
Okay, that's interesting. And I think the term Afrofuturism, that's an actual term, isn't it? Afrofuturism?
Yeah, I do see that term around. About, you know, the future of Africa.
What do you see the future of Africa being from your perspective? You know, telling all these stories and doing the amazing things that you've done over the years.
I think Africa's future is bright as long as the African people are willing to be a part of the story and willing to tell their story and willing to fight for change. Because I think if you're complacent, it'll never happen. And I think a lot of young people today who are on social media are seeing that what they can do with the power of their phones can make a difference and make an impact. So I do see the future being bright for the continent. There's still challenges logistically.
Absolutely.
And I also think Africans don't have much control over the fact that the global economy, the system is designed against Africa. And so it makes it hard for Africans to kind of work against that and try to move past that and build a strong future. It makes it difficult.
It does, yeah. I mean, I guess especially people that are kind of like used to how the Western worlds operate, sometimes it's hard to kind of come to Africa and just go about things as you normally know how to. You have to adjust and adapt to how things are run over here. So some people it's a culture shock, but some people, they get used to it and they find ways to overcome and persevere. So I'm sure some interviews you have documented that really, really well. You mentioned working with Beyond the Return and getting involved in social media and maybe attending some of these events. So I think over this Christmas we've just seen like Dave Chappelle, we've had Chance the Rapper and people like that come into Ghana. Launched the Black Star Line event alongside Vic Mensa. What's your thoughts in some of these new people, launching new events and getting involved in the future of Ghana?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's great. I think it's always great that people are willing and interested in coming to Ghana. The interesting thing about the story with Chance the Rapper is he came, January 2022, and then within a year, January 2023, they're doing this event. And the whole process of it's a vision that he and Vic had together that has come to fruition. And I think it shows that if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to collaborate with people on the ground, if you're willing to be open to things and sharing the message with your friends, I think that is really, really important. As myself, I was there with the whole process of when he first came, when Chance first came to Ghana. I was there at the airport and stuff, and then we went to Jubilee House, and so he threw it out there right from the beginning, so it's not something that just all of a sudden they want to do a festival, and they came a few times throughout the year working towards it actually happening. So I think what they did is an example of how some of the diaspora are coming and they're doing things. And it's not always publicly known what people are doing. People assume that there's a lot of people not coming and making an impact. One of the things with Beyond the Return is Give Back Ghana, which is all about giving back to the community. And there's a lot of people who come and they have organizations, they have nonprofits, they do activities where they're giving back to the community, and it may not be highly publicized because they're not celebrities. So a lot of times, even sometimes I post stuff on social media that is meaningful content, and it's not a high profile person, and people don't share it. People don't they don't share, they don't comment. But as soon as it's a celebrity, all of a sudden everybody seems to care about it more. And I don't like the accusations that I sometimes get. People sometimes say, oh, you guys only care about celebrities. But it's no, that's not the case, because we do share stuff about non-celebrities, but people don't go and share. Like for you to share it to someone else and send it to someone else's DM, share it on your WhatsApp platforms. A lot of times when it's attached to a celebrity, that's when people suddenly want to share it versus an average person. There's a lot of average people out there who are making an impact. And saying average people doesn't mean that they're not, I'm not saying that one person's better than the other, but they're the citizens that are not highly publicized, they're not high profile. But I think it's really great, it's really excellent. I'm privileged that I was hired to be producer on the documentary on the ground for Black Star Line Festival that they did leading up to the festival itself. So that was a really great experience too for me.
Oh, fantastic. Also as someone behind the cameras as well, that's going to look great in your resume, isn't it? I can't believe that. Just want to go back a little bit, Ivy.
Yes.
So you mentioned, how you've been getting involved or maybe sharing amazing things that people are doing that aren't as well known. Why I know that normally it's human nature that when we see celebrity
it is human nature,
you see celebrity do something and then we want to kind of like share that, we want to share it with friends, we want to get involved, but when someone that isn't as famous does something remarkable, we don't really want to share that. I think this is a good segue to some of the interviews that you've been doing. And I'm not saying some of the interviews you've been doing are people that aren't amazing, but what I'm trying to say is that you've also documented some amazing people who maybe not be celebrity status, but they're doing some fantastic things in the diaspora, the Ghanaian community. you've interviewed people in fashion, you've interviewed people in real estate, Kofi Anku, my recent guest. You've interviewed people who have relocated. So many different stories. I want to hear from you. What are some of the stories that you've really enjoyed and been inspired by that you've interviewed?
Saiwan Cafe is owned by Nadia Tachwa Mensa.
Just funny, we talked about it, didn't we? Just earlier.
Yes, and so I really enjoyed the interview I did with her. She's my friend, but I really enjoyed the interview I did with her because I learned things that I didn't know about her. And I thought that it was really, really wow, inspiring because she shared about ups and downs in Ghana because she's somebody who's had a long journey being here. She didn't just pop up here in the last couple of years. Yeah. And so she's somebody that I found to be pretty inspiring. And then the couple from Jamaica who run the Marcus Garvey Foundation, Naomi and her husband Neville, that interview, they moved from Jamaica to Ghana. And I found that one to be really inspiring too, because they've been here for a long time. I think it's been 20 years or something in Ghana. And so, forgive me if I'm wrong, because I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
Don't worry, we'll find it and we'll put it in the show notes for those that want to go see it.
Okay. And so people like that who've come, who don't have a direct connection. There's, yes, the historical lineage of Caribbeans and Africa, but they didn't have the direct connection, and they've moved here and they've built a life in this country, which I found fascinating. And then the other person that I really enjoyed was, I'm trying to think back, was, and this video didn't trend the way I thought it would, because sometimes you do interviews, you're like, what? People don't like this video? It was a woman, her name is Queen Imina. She's from California. Okay. And she was in Ghana for a few months, and just, her talking about the spiritual journey, and she became a king in Nigeria. And so it's like, how does a woman become a king in Nigeria who's from California? And I found it so interesting, but the video didn't get as much traction as I thought it would, but I thought her story was really quite fascinating. There's so many people that I find interesting. And there was Maurice, who he's from where is he from? Detroit. And he has the dolls. He was inspired by the black dolls, seeing girls in town with white dolls in Ghana. Like, why do they have white dolls? We should have black dolls here, and just pushing and trying to get it out there. So he's also somebody that's very interesting too. So there's a lot of different people that I found inspiring that I've interviewed over the years. Yeah.
Thank you for highlighting. That's really helpful. And it's just amazing now, although some of these stories that you've shared, it's that they're picking, like they're coming over here, maybe they're seeing maybe problems or maybe things that could be improved or better, and then they're taking ownership to try and fix it. Or there's a gap in the market, and then they're coming over and then they're trying to fill that gap in the market and contribute to the community. I spoke to Captain Yao, the fish and chip restaurant in Osu, and then they told me their story about how, just like what you said, people, they come, they get locked down, they get stuck during the pandemic, and then they end up creating an amazing business that adds value to the community. So this is the common theme that I find. There's problems, or people come here, but they come here and then they end up staying by accident, and then they end up finding purpose through that. So I think it's a really fascinating theme that we're seeing. And then going back to what you said about Chance the Rapper, he came the previous year, and then he came the following year and did a whole concert. I think to do that in such a short amount of space time is absolutely amazing.
They came multiple times through the year.
Multiple times through the year? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, they came multiple times through the year because there's planning involved with leading up to that final performance.
Okay, this is my question to you. What is it about Ghana, or maybe even Africa necessarily, that makes people, I know there's probably a few reasons, but I want to hear from you. What is it about Ghana, or maybe West Africa or Africa per se, that makes people want to come back and just live here or establish something?
So Ghana has been historically known as a Pan-African nation. And as a Pan-African country, it has historically been a place that has invited the diaspora to come. So ever since 1957, beginning of the country's, official existence, Kwame Nkrumah inviting Martin Luther King to come to Ghana. And then subsequently, so many other high-profile people coming to Ghana over the years.
It's like a ripple effect, isn't it?
Yeah, people like Malcolm X who came to Ghana as well, and what's his name, the boxer, Muhammad Ali. And there's like so many different people who've come to Ghana over the years that there's like waves. So you had that early wave during the inception of the country. Then you have the period of time when Black people are finding themselves, in America through the civil rights movement and stuff, and people are coming. And in Ghana, I think it was in the early 90s, Panafest was launched. So Panafest is a Pan-African festival through arts and through theater promoting Pan-Africanism. And so since the early 90s, this festival has been happening in Ghana, and it has been something that attracts the diaspora to come to Ghana.
Wow.
And then in 2007, the government had this program that they called the Joseph Project, which is sort of like the story of the Bible, Joseph being banished and then coming back to the brothers. What is it? The brother, he's been banished from his family, and then he's like the brother who's been welcomed to come back.
Yeah.
So the Joseph Project, sort of like symbolic of that. And so that was a project in the Ministry of Tourism that was inviting the diaspora to come to Ghana in 2007. Now, it didn't take off the way they expected, but it was part of the whole Pan-Africanist succession in Ghana and people seeing Ghana as a place that's welcoming them to come. Then we fast forward and we come to 2019. And so with the year of return, what happened was I wasn't there from the very beginning because I wasn't working with Ghana Tourism Authority in 2017, 2018 when plans were happening. So the US government signed a bill, the HR 1242 bill, which was acknowledging the 400-year anniversary of the first documented ship of enslaved Africans to arrive in the United States, in Virginia. And so when that was signed, it was acknowledging this history and acknowledging the pain and things that the African American community have gone through. Ghana seeing that as an opportunity to also acknowledge Ghana's role, because Ghana had the most slave forts during the transatlantic slave trade, and inviting the diaspora to say, come home, come to Africa and choose Ghana, and have this sort of coming together and seeing the history and the that aspect, and his fraternity brothers came and shook hands and all that stuff. That was my video. I shot that video.
Yeah.
I shot that video.
You heard that, guys? Give her the credit.
I shot that video. And it went viral. And then from there, year of return, social media just boom, 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 boom. People were looking out for stuff.
Pivotal year for sure.
Yeah, and I really strongly believe that if it wasn't for that page, a lot of other pages that exist in Ghana right now, a lot of other social media pages wouldn't exist, because I think people saw the value in social media. Because when I came on board, there was still hesitancy in the relevance of my role, the relevance of social media.
Okay.
Someone once said, what else do you do besides just post a picture on Instagram? Because people didn't understand the work that goes into actually putting together a plan and writing the captions.
Absolutely. They just see the content, but they don't see what the hard work is behind the scenes.
Yeah, and responding to messages and DMs and all that kind of stuff. So it's a labor of love. It's a labor of love. And so that's the long story. Why Ghana, the long answer as to why Ghana is a Pan-Africanist, why it's attractive to the diaspora. So now with people coming, sorry, I leaned away from the mic.
That's okay.
Audio, I keep thinking about audio.
That's okay, don't worry, we got you over there too, so it's fine.
With people coming, it intrigues others. So like if you come and someone sees, oh, he's in Ghana, what's he doing? Oh, wow, I'm in that industry too. Maybe I should come and check it out. So it's like people see what others are doing, and it encourages them to say, oh, let me go and give it a try as well. So I think that Ghana has continued to be a place that people want to come. Firstly, it's a welcoming country. Stability of government successions over the last, I think they said 4 or 5 successional governments. The fact that it is a safe country, it's listed as the 2nd safest country in Africa on the Global Peace Index in 2022. And that makes people feel comfortable. And then English, because a lot of people coming from the West speak English, or coming from the Caribbean, coming from the UK, they come and they feel like Ghana is easier to transition to with English. Other African countries, there's French-speaking African countries as well, but they feel like the English. But I feel like the stability and the safety are major reasons too.
And I think the friendliness as well, from what I got from you telling me about Chance the Rapper, I think the friendliness and the warmness as well.
Yeah, people are friendly and warm. Ghanaians are friendly and warm.
Yeah. But
customer service is...
That's a whole conversation.
That's another conversation.
I saw that clip of Charlemagne. Oh my gosh, that's a whole other conversation.
I won't get into that right now.
That's a whole. I'm sure you've done interviews about that as well. And I did an interview with a startup, Consume Shop, right? I think they have a 60-minute delivery service in Accra. I don't know how they do it, because Consume Shop, they're like a startup. They're like a smaller version of Jumia.
Okay.
They launched about 2 years ago. So I interviewed them.
I don't know them.
You know them?
No, I don't.
Okay, cool. Well, they're up and coming anyway, but I interviewed them, and they told me a customer service story where they wanted to buy £24 worth of fried yam chips, right? And then they end up getting 24 pieces of yam brought to their table. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Ridiculous. It's a joke. So this is some of the common misconceptions, and these are some of the mistakes that you see customer service make. It's an absolute joke. All right, so I want to take the spotlight from Ghana. I want to pull up on you, back on you, Ivy.
Okay.
Hey guys, this is Adrian from the Sound of Accra podcast. I hope you're enjoying this episode. It's just a quick announcement. Now, have you guys been thinking about starting a podcast? I know everyone is starting a new podcast these days, but there's a very, very good reason why everyone is starting their podcast. Now, if you're thinking of starting, launching, growing, and monetizing your own podcast, I'm here to let you know that I am now helping hundreds of podcasters
Now it's so common that people will get married in their 30s and then now they're trying to have kids. So there's a lot of women who are facing challenges after 35 having children. So she created this podcast because there's a different experience as a woman in your 30s and above having children than someone who's, 20, 21, 22 having a child. It's a different experience. So she created the podcast to fit a niche, and it's getting some traction. A lot of people are interested in it.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, and then my other sister was acting, but she also does counseling. My brother's in medical industry.
Okay. So your brother sounds like maybe your brother's the odd one out. Everyone else is more or less around media, creative media. I love it. I mean, I guess with that podcast, I think we're in a society where people are giving birth maybe a bit later than usual, and or not from usual. I mean, later than what used to happen
previous
in
generations.
The past. Exactly. Yeah. So everyone's a bit more career driven or entrepreneur centric, and more into pursuing things and rather than just having kids. And of course, the world that we're in is a bit tougher, so people are like, to have a kid, to have a kid. So yeah, that's a whole conversation, I suppose. All right, okay. So speaking of women, right?
Yes.
So I know you do a bit of women empowerment speaking. Could you talk me through some of the women some interesting ladies that you've interviewed that stand out to you in terms of like your YouTube channel, any of your journalistic past that you've spoken to?
On my YouTube, well, there's somebody I interviewed that the video hasn't even been published that I found interesting. So I won't talk about that because it hasn't been published. But as far as like the women empowerment goes, I have been passionate about empowering young women in particular, largely because sometimes they don't have a voice. And sometimes women seem to suffer more self-esteem issues than men do, at least from the surface, because a lot of men don't talk about it. So if there is more in men, I don't know. I just know that women talk about it more. So I'm more aware of that. And I think because of my experience,
want to hide things more.
Yeah. And I think my experience in the modeling industry also exposed how women, because of what we see in media, we end up getting these self-esteem issues about our bodies, about who we are and confidence and that kind of thing. So it made me want to pursue that aspect of empowering young women. Because there was one day I heard some women having conversation and they were like talking about how they don't look good and they look fat and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what, I should start, doing this speaking and sharing my message about improving your self-esteem and your body image. So
inspired others then. Yeah.
So, I mean, some of the interesting people that I've spoken to aren't people that I've necessarily interviewed and published on YouTube. Sometimes it's just through conversation. So there was one particular young girl, she was 14, and I spoke, because I used to tour around school speaking. And so I had gone to speak at a school that was in a smaller community. So there was not many Black people there. She was the only Black girl in her class, in her school, actually.
Wow.
And she waited for me after I finished my speaking. Yeah. And she said, "I'm so happy that our speaker was you." She said, "When I saw the flyer that our guest speaker was going to be a Black woman, I was so happy because I've been going through so much, being the only Black person, people teasing me. I felt like I wasn't worth anything. And then to see that our speaker is a Black woman," she was like, "This means so much to me." And so the conversation I had with her, there was so much more she said that I'm not going to say.
That's okay.
But that conversation to me was inspiring because it made me feel like, you know what, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, it's a shame that we still live in a day and age where that kind of stuff is still happening. I remember speaking to one of my guests in season 1, and when they landed in Ghana, it was like, they were like, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen so many Black people in my life," kind of thing. And she's from America, right? It's the first trip as an African American coming to visit Ghana.
Right.
And when I heard it, I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay," because for me, like where I'm from, like in the UK, I'm surrounded by loads of Black people. So for her, it's like, oh, I've never seen so much black people in my life. And that's true. When you come to Ghana or Africa, you're going to see way more black people than you are in the West. But for her to say that, it's like, wow, like, you don't know what she's been kind of going through over there. So I think that's really like a powerful thing that you did, going to speak into that young lady's into that young lady's life, and just sharing words of wisdom and empowerment that just can uplift her. Because sometimes you don't know how hard people have it. Honestly, you just don't. And that brings me to my next point. You did a TEDx talk, right?
Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit about that?
The TEDx talk came during pandemic time. Even though Ghana didn't have like high restrictions and stuff, there were still protocols and stuff. So you couldn't go into like theaters, like the movie theater was closed for a long time. And so anyway, TED Talk, I finally get a TEDx, and it's during a time when we can't have a crowd.
Yeah.
So
Great.
It was recorded in a studio.
Yeah. By yourself?
So they have the camera team, and then we're in studio. And so there were other speakers. So it's like one finishes, then the next one records, and the next one records. So, but it was an honor to be asked to share my message about my ideas and message about the power of digital media with bridging the gap of the diaspora and the African continent, because that's exactly what I've been doing with my work. And I was really excited. It was really great to share, because I really believe that the power is in our hands to tell our stories. And we can see that right now from, so many African content creators are popping up and are doing things, whether it's a podcast or it's on YouTube, or whether they're using Instagram, TikTok, whatever platforms they're using, they're sharing their message and they're creating. And it's opening up opportunities for Africans to get in spaces that they may not have been before, which I think is fantastic. It
is, because this is what you were talking about earlier on, right? You were pioneering some of the content that was being, shown in the social media. And then that inspired some other agencies or content creators to start doing what they're doing. And because of what you've done, other people have started some things, and it's just led to this whole new explosive wave of content creators and media companies, etc., etc.
Definitely. And it takes time, because a lot of people think I just started doing stuff with Year of Return in 2019. And it's like, no, I've been posting content about Ghana, about Africa for a long time. The first video I posted on YouTube was a video of me walking through La Palm. And I was like, oh my God, look at this place. This is Africa. This is Africa. That was 2011.
Wow.
And it was, I was going to a conference. It was like a women's conference that was happening. And I was just so like, wow, people need to see this. And when I was doing it at the time, I wasn't doing it because I felt like I'm a content creator, because that term didn't really exist.
Yeah.
I was just posting a video because my friends back home wanted to see, my friends in Canada and the US and stuff wanted to see what is it like where you are. So once in a while I would post videos. I wasn't even posting consistently. It was just, I'll post once in a while and share with them. And a lot of times they weren't even public videos. I made them private links that I would send to them so they can see. Unlisted links, not private, unlisted links that I would send to them so they can see what I'm doing here in Ghana. So, and I had a blog. Oh, I forgot about that blog. I had a blog. It was called Made in Ghana, Africa. .blogspot. Blogspot. Who does that anymore?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you could see what you were doing even back then.
Yeah.
And how it's evolved into now. Like now, IP Prosper. I mean, now, a lot of people coming to know who you are and what you're doing. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed this conversation, Ivy.
Yes, me too.
Go back to, you mentioned your book, Essential Guide
on Moving to Ghana.
As a closer, I want you to kind of like share some tips from people who want to kind of relocate to Ghana, or maybe Africa per se. What are some essential tips you would give to them? And not even just even relocating and moving to Ghana or Africa, but maybe even being a content creator, starting up as a creative, wanting to be a speaker, or any of these other pursuits that you've taken on to do.
So advice on moving to Ghana?
Yeah, some advice to move to Ghana.
If you're looking to move to Ghana, I would say that you should plan. Firstly, why do you want to move? ask yourself the why. Because if you don't have a strong why, you won't last, because it's not easy. And with planning, try to have like a year's worth of living expenses, because Ghana is more expensive than people think. And this way, you have a backup of funds while you're working towards whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's starting a business, whether it's working with a company, consulting, whatever it is you're doing. Make sure you have that. A lot of people who live abroad don't know that these places ask for like a year rent up front, 2 years up front. So it's a good idea for you to be prepared for that, because people don't know. They'll come to you, what? What do you mean? A year of rent? What? So prepare for that.
Okay.
And know that people are always late. So you have to exercise patience.
Yeah.
And that it takes time. It can take you 2 to 5 years to really get your bearings in Ghana. If you're trying to be an entrepreneur, or even if you're trying to work with somebody, it can take 2 to 5 years for you to really get your bearings. So you have to be patient.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Tips.
And then you said the last one was being a creator.
Those that want to pursue any creative pursuits, whether it's content career, maybe speaker, writing a book.
As far as
you're doing.
As far as being a creator, when we live in a time when the power is in your hands. Like people will say they want to do stuff and they think that it's going to happen instantly. You have to understand that it takes time. Like I just said that 2011 was when I shared a video on YouTube about Ghana. It takes time and consistency. You can't expect that you post today and you're going to get 1,000 views or something. You post today, nobody knows who you are. You don't have an audience yet. You're not going to get a lot of views, a lot of likes, a lot of shares, because you're building. So what I say is keep doing it. Keep posting, keep writing, keep doing whatever it is that you're doing, because you're creating your catalog. You're creating your catalog that people will look back on and see, oh, wow, you did this and you did this. Because right now there's creators in Ghana who are really successful. And now people are going and looking at their old stuff and like, oh, wow, they've been doing this since then. Then they're consuming their old content and realizing this person is serious. They didn't just come from nowhere.
Yeah.
So it's important that you know that you have to just keep on pushing, keep putting your message out there. It's like there's no such thing as an overnight success. People think there's overnight success. Media plays this story as if people just come out of nowhere, but those people have been practicing. They've been doing whatever they've been doing for at least 5 to 10 years before you even found out who they were most of the time. There's a very few out there that suddenly get fame, and because of viral videos or whatever it may be. But sometimes if you have a viral video and you don't have the content to back it up, then you just fall. Like you'll have a video that gets popular, everybody knows it, they see it, and then they look, where else, what else do you have? Nothing. Then that's it. You fall by the wayside. So if you have things that you're doing all the time and suddenly something goes viral and people see that you have other stuff that is out there, then it's like, oh, okay, they've been doing this for a while.
Absolutely. Sustainability and consistency is the key. That's my big takeaway from what you've just shared as well. And being patient and, just testing things and seeing what works for you, I suppose. Ivy, this has been a fantastic conversation. Do you have any announcements that you want to make?
Do I have any announcements? I don't have any announcements right now.
Okay.
I just say that you can follow me on all my social platforms, Ivy Prosper. That's Ivy Prosper everywhere, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. It's also Ivy Prosper. My website is ivyprosper.com. And if you're looking for a producer, Ivy at ivyprosper.com. You can go to my website and you can click to get my email there. It's info@ivyprosper.com is the email. info@ivyprosper.com for production stuff. And if you're looking for a speaker, I'm also available. Yes, that's it. Yeah, I'm available. Ivy Prosper, one of the most influential people in Ghana that you probably didn't know.
Oof, that was good. I like that. We're going to have everything in the show notes, all of the links, references, tips, nuggets that Ivy has shared. So everything that she just shared and more, head over to thesoundofacrowd.com/Ivy Prosper. That's thesoundofacrowd.com/Ivy Prosper. IVYPROSPER. We'll have everything in those show notes. Well, that's it. That's it for today's episode, guys. Thank you for watching. Please give us a like on your way out. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of the episode. And please do give us a review. Thank you so much. Okay.
Before you end, I want to say thank you. Thank you for having me. You're doing a great job.
I'm trying.
People like you are continuing to tell stories and showcasing people who are making an impact in Ghana. So thank you.
Thank you, Ivy. It's really kind of you to say. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Wow. Take care, guys. Peace.
Hey guys, this is Adrian from the Sound of Accra podcast. I hope you guys enjoying this episode. It's just a quick announcement. Now, those of you who may have been watching or following the podcast for quite some time now, I would like to hear from you. What do you think of our podcast? What topics do you want to hear from us more? What guests do you want to see? What kind of episodes would you like to see or hear? Please let us know. Drop an email to info@thesoundofaccra.com or fill out a short form in the description below, and me and the team will get in touch with you. Also, if you would like to sponsor future seasons, please do get in touch, info@thesoundofaccra.com, or we'll drop a form in the description below, and we will be able to share some information and our decks in terms of how you can get involved in sponsoring a season. And finally, we're working on a paid private community where like-minded Ghanaian creators, entrepreneurs, and even others from the greater African diaspora can come together and up-level themselves as an entrepreneur, as a creative, as a creator, or as an authority in their industry, learning how they can, do better in their fields. Drop us an email, info@thesoundofaccra, or fill out the short form below, and you'll get more information about that coming soon in 2023. Thank you for watching. See ya.
Thank you so much, Ivy.
Thanks.
It's all done and dusted.
I realized I should have had my chair closer to the mic because then I was leaning. So I was like,